Good afternoon. I call this work session of the Anchorage Election Commission to order. I'm Commissioner Lauren Lehman and Commissioner Katie Nolan and Commissioner Meade Treadwell are here. Our chairman, Lisa Torkelson, is unable to be with us today in person. Is she? Is she on the line?
No.
Sorry, not on the line either. So this session is the work session where we will be going through the recommended actions by election staff and looking at ballots and determining which ones are to be counted and which ones are not by following the law. Jamie or William, whichever one of you wants to take the lead. All right. Go for it.
You're going to look at ballots first.
All right, I will try to remember to speak into this microphone, or that microphone. All right, so first up are our duplicate ballots. So this is reject code P, and then the code is used when it has been determined that a voter has cast more than one ballot. We have 23 of these. So I'm going to hand you this stack here. I will mention that these 4 we are asking you to reject. However, the issue with, or what happened with these, is the folks received a cure letter and then went into an ABC to vote to cure their ballot. So these were the originals that needed to be cured were set aside.
So essentially what you're saying, they followed the law, but this is what happens.
These are just,
yeah.
It's just.
It would be a duplicate.
Yeah, so it's a duplicate, but it's not. So they went in, cured like they were supposed to, and we are just asking for these to be rejected, and we will not be sending them a letter for those.
Mr. Chair, at the last canvas, we had a nice worksheet. Do we have one this time? Thank you.
If I could ask, in looking at these duplicates, the other ones, is there any pattern that you see? Is it like people who are, I don't want to offend those who are my age or older, but sometimes people forget it vote twice. But what can we deduce from it? Anything at all, other than their duplicates?
Yeah, so I guess for this election, what could have happened is because there was such a quick turnaround, we did send out a bunch of what we called replacement. They weren't replacement, but we sent out replacement ballots in between the 2 voter files that we received. So they probably received both of those, and then at different times. So they probably voted one and then got another and then got confused. So I don't think I can't say if there's any malice or anything behind this, but that's my only assumption is what happened. Except for those 4 there.
There's 7.
Yep, and then there's these 4 here as well.
There were, 21 on the other back?
There's 23, so there's...
those 4?
Yeah, well, no, the 23 is including those 4.
So through the chair, if somebody is coming into a voter center will the voter center give them a question ballot even if they got notice that the ballot was received?
So they typically receive a question ballot if they're not in the file, in the voter file. So these folks are in the voter file, but what happened in a lot of these cases is they voted in person and the ballot that they received.
All right. So consistency being a hobgoblin in my little mind. We've got several here where we're rejecting the second one and saying, no, we're only counting the original because it was received. And then here is one that says voters issued a replacement, returned both, processed the same day, the original is not being counted. So in this case, the voter essentially had a chance to change his or her mind, whereas in these cases, we're telling them they can't change their mind. And I don't understand what the difference is.
Well, that one, it sounds like it was a first come, first run type of situation where we received them both. Yeah, and it's first come, first served basis, and I believe that's what the code is indicated. Of course, I don't have that in front of me, so.
Well, I mean, just when you read this, one says voter voted twice, original voted in person at City Hall, original be counted. Original was received at 9. The in-person voted ballot was received and processed at 5/16. So if you got a ballot on 5/9, why would you even give a person a replacement ballot on the 16th?
So again, they went in and voted in person on the 16th. So what happens is that, so our ABCs don't have, so essentially what happens is they vote in person, and even if that comes in, it gets caught by our system. So there's no way they can vote twice because the original already came in as first served and gets marked off the ballot list. So there's probably, or the ABCs are likely not to have the information that those voters have already voted. So that's why we run it through our system, and we can catch it that way.
The database at the vote centers are static. They're not connected to the internet, and so they don't have live information. It's when it comes through this order that we learn that they've already voted once.
So that's fine, but then if you, I mean, in this case, if an original was received on the 9th of May, and the in-person was received 8 days later, or 7 days later, why would the second ballot be counted and not the first one?
Yeah. This one's saying that the original is being counted, not the one they voted in person. So it's always the first ballot that we receive that gets counted.
All right, so when you say received and processed, that doesn't mean processed. Okay.
Okay, through the chair, the reject codes on these are what, since?
Yeah, so those are still duplicate, but like I said, those ones are different from those because
right.
those 4, I believe there's 4 there, received a cure letter. So they did what they were supposed to do by going in and re-voting, and we were able to catch that. So those signatures will be most likely cured and be usable in the next elections.
All right, so can you look at this one too?
So is your question which one, why the original is not being counted? Because again, it's first come, first served. So we probably, what happened is because this is saying the replacement, both the replacement and the original were received on the same day, the replacement probably got run first. Yeah.
questions about this batch? Okay, next.
So the next one is reject code E. So it's the ballot return envelopes were empty or contained other materials. And this code is used if the voter's ballot envelope does not contain a valid ballot. There are 4 of these.
I'm sorry, how do you know what's in it? There's something in both of these.
So one you can tell by the weight. And then if you're looking through, obviously you can see that there's stuff in it, but these are our instructions that are in it.
Is there a cure letter sent to these folks?
Yes, there should have been a cure letter sent to those folks. If there was time, there should have been a cure letter sent to those folks. Those are curable ballots.
And if there's an email on there, did you use the email?
Yes, we contacted every voter that has an email and a phone number to ensure that they cure their ballots. I also went further this year and did several media interviews to make sure that people were actually cured.
Any other questions about that batch? Next.
So the next one is E1, and these are ballots returned without a return envelope or unable to identify the voters. Or the voter, I should say. There are 17 of these.
So they presumably came in some type of envelope or perhaps got dropped off?
Yep, so we've indicated,
just like this.
Yeah, we've indicated where, if we were able to identify where they came in from, we identified them. So the top one you see there is Dropbox O'Malley.
Okay. Right.
And I will let the commission know there was one ballot in that batch that had a signature on it. There was a signature both on the ballot and on the return envelope, or not the return envelope, sorry, the secrecy sleeve. So we were able to cure that and make that good.
So you were able to figure out from the signature who that is?
Yep. They also provided us their driver's license and everything as well.
Okay. Any questions about that batch? Hearing none. Next.
All right, so the next one is reject code is I, and you guys should be receiving some of these shortly, these sheets. But I is voter inactive, and it's used when it has been determined that the voter status and condition code are inactive because he or she is registered in another jurisdiction. So state, requesting cancellation of registration, is convicted of a felony, attempted to register in the past on a question or absentee ballot, did not provide the required information. And the one that we have here is in a question ballot, and Jamie and I took a look through all the question ballots when we received it, and this person has been purged in the state voter database. Yes, and there's a date. What date is that? They were purged in 2022. And this floppy will re-register them when we send them to the state.
Will they get a letter?
Yes.
Social Security number, original number from Alaska.
Yep.
75 years old.
In the last, I got my cheat sheet from last time. Last time we had 12 folks who didn't identify the right information. This year, you don't have any, or this election, you didn't have any in code G.
Correct. There are none in code G.
Those are the ones that said selfies.
Any questions or comments about this batch of one? Very good. Next.
In addition, there are no ballots that need to be dealt with for code K or code M, which is on the next page. Yes, and for the audience, code K is electronic ballot not properly applied for, and it is used when it has been determined that a voted electronic ballot was received by a person who had not applied for a ballot. Municipal code requires each person to apply for a fax or email ballot. For example, a wife applied for a ballot, the husband did not, and the husband fills out the envelope and votes the ballot. This code is also used for special needs ballots when it has been determined that the representative did not properly apply for the ballot. And then M is multiple ballots in one envelope. And this code is used for when there is or was more than one ballot in an envelope. To the extent possible, the voter and other household members, if obvious, were provided replacement ballots. That's also curable if we had any. So the next one is reject code MOA, voter registered outside of MOA. This is used when the voter records show that the voter is registered within Alaska but outside the municipality of Anchorage. There are 35 of these. So I will hand you the stack of question ballots. Then,
How did they get the ballot?
so we allow anyone to vote who wants to vote, but if we don't have them in our system, they get given a question ballot. So then they fill that out, and it gets a little bit more scrutiny from Jamie and myself, and these individuals we found were not registered in the municipality, but because they are here in the municipality now, once we hand these over to the state or the floppies that were attached, they will be registered. There's a couple more that are not in question.
So, a question about these. This is a citywide election, so if you move from one precinct to another, but you were registered in the first, you put down an address of something else, do we accept it or not accept it?
Yeah, so if the individual is moving within the municipality, they're able to vote. They would, again, vote a question ballot, but those ballots would count, so long as they are registered within the municipality.
But if we had an
on time.
assembly race or a tax thing, it wouldn't.
So for the mayoral runoff, we told the election workers at the vote centers that if their address was different, they could just give them an area wide and stick them in the regular envelopes.
But all we had was area wide, is that correct?
All of our stuff comes out precinct and precinct based, so they
Okay,
have
so
to have
no,
the area.
no one was rejected from moving within Anchorage, only if you moved, say, Sitka or Wasilla or
Right.
so, or Fairbanks, or no. Okay.
William, through the chair, would you please just explain these a little further?
Yeah, those ones? Sure. I will attempt to. Okay, so this one. You want? Jamie will.
This person came into the vote center in Eagle River, Golden Marston, and his name on his ID was William Bart, and so they pulled up William Bart in the system and found William J. Bart in the system. And when we looked at this yesterday, because it was considered a no-sig match, you can see that he signed like Hunter Bart. And so when we looked into his voter number and information, Hunter is registered in Fairbanks. And so it was a case of, the ABC made a mistake by not looking at the middle initial. And so actually, I think it was a duplicate ballot voted is what we were looking at, because it looked like William J. Bart had voted twice. And then when I said, that doesn't look like William at all. And so we looked further into it, and it was that the son's name is William H. Bart, and he signed Hunter, and so that one he's registered in Fairbanks. Okay, and so then these two are also situations where we had, we get the first voter file, we got that on April 14th, and then we got a second voter file on April 22nd. And usually in a regular election, we get 3 voter files, and so we're able to do what's called a catch up and yank. So if a voter's information has changed between the first voter file and the second voter file, we'll have them yank those or readdress them or whatever needs to change. And what happened was this person was registered to vote in the file that we got on April 14th, but they had changed their registration on April 17th after we had submitted the voter file to the vendor. And so they changed their voter registration to Palmer on April 17th.
And that is the same case with this voter as well. They were registered to vote here in the municipality for that first file, but then the second file, they changed their registration on April 16th to Sterling.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, the change of address out of town, I can imagine that some people might look at the convenience of being here just once or doing that or doing it. When you change an address, is there an effective date form, or it's just when you put it in? I mean, could somebody say, I'm moving to California in June and change their, or I'm moving to Juneau in June and change their address ahead of time and still vote in the municipal election? Or you just can't turn your thing in?
Yeah, you just can't turn your thing in. It's my understanding that the online voter registration online form updates the voter registration database as of the day that they submit it, and if you're doing it on a handwritten form, they're looking at if it was signed by a registrar, they will look at that date, and if it was not signed by the registrar, it's the date that they receive it.
Thank you. Are these in the same category?
Yeah, they are. Those are the ones that just had a different different issue than the question ballots.
Further questions on the category MOA? Hearing none. Next.
There you go.
Yes. All right, so the next two have 0. The next reject code is O, which is voter does not meet certification requirements. And this is typically used when the voter has, let's see, let's actually read it. This code is used.
So if they was to say no.
Okay. So this code is used if a voter has marked any of the certification requirements on the voter oath or checked no on the citizen, birth date, or residency box. And those are also shown on our question ballot at the top. That's just an example. And R, again, there's no ballots for this one, but R is when the voter returned a ballot envelope and asked to be removed from the voter roll. This code is used when the voter has requested to be removed from the voter rolls in the ballot return envelope or indicated they no longer live in Anchorage. So the next one with actual ballots is reject code T, which is voter registered too late. And this code is used if the voter registered or updated his or her registration after the 30-day cutoff before this election. What was that, the 14th? It was April 14th for this election.
How many of them?
There are 8 of these.
And did any of them just update their address inside Anchorage?
No. They were coming they were either brand new, I don't remember all the specifics, but they were either brand new or moving into the municipality. Or first-time voters.
They're moving in.
Well, registered voters.
These folks will be registered to vote for the next election.
questions.
Okay, without further questions or comments, next category, please.
Yes, so the next category is reject code B, which is ballot received too late. And this code is used if a ballot is received after 8 p.m. on election day via email or fax at one of the Anchorage vote centers or at one of the secure drop boxes. There are 17 of these. Yeah, it looks like those aren't signed either. But on the front side, there should be the dates when they were received.
1 minute too late.
Several of them are 1 minute too late.
The 14th was the deadline?
April 14th to register to vote, yes.
And what? And May, what? This is one that, this one was rejected on 5/15.
Yes, so this reject code, again, is the ballots that were received too late. So these came in.
That was way too late.
These came in after 8 p.m.
I think those ones were found on top of the drop boxes when we went back out the next day to start taking the fire stops and stuff out of the drop boxes.
Is that why they all say 801?
At 801 ones, they were, there was a line when our workers were emptying the drop box, and so then they had the last person in line for about 8 o'clock, and then anybody that came through afterwards was given an opportunity to take their ballot to the post office, but they chose to give it to the election worker instead.
Even though the election worker probably said your ballot will not count if it's too late.
They just give them a form. It's a half sheet form that explains both options.
Okay.
And we're sure the Russians weren't messing with our GPS and the time on the cell phone for the 801.
This Russian wasn't.
Okay, so I'm going to skip the next one until the end. So I'm going to go to W1, which is no postmark but received after Election Day. This code is used when, or if there is a ballot, if the ballot was received after Election Day, it was determined and has been determined that there is no postmark on the ballot envelope and the USPS could not verify receipt of the envelope on or before Election Day. There are 2 of these.
I think we discussed this before, but if you receive it the day after, then you assume that it was mailed in sufficient time. But that's probably the only case, the day after. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, correct.
In this case, in one case, the post office said damage and handling in the postal service. And then the other was mailed from the Czech Republic. This envelope doesn't say what the postmark has to be, and this envelope does. What's the difference?
Yeah, I see. Oh, yeah. Okay, so the difference here is this ballot was mailed from our vendor. This one was printed in-house. And that's why it's missing that must be postmarked or returned by date, because we can only print the barcodes here. So that's the difference between these two.
Can I suggest put that on your to-do list?
Yeah, we can look into it and see if it's something it's possible to do.
Yeah, it's just, a fair warning in one case versus the other.
Yeah.
That one was mailed from the Czech Republic.
Yeah, and unfortunately these, like I said, don't have the postmarks on them, so either from when they were sent from the Czech or received here, so.
We're done with that category. Next.
I will just say that we did have one also this morning that we looked at that was arrived too late, and the voter had mailed it from Thailand at 9 in the morning, and when you cross-reference that with Alaska time, it was 9 in the morning on the 15th in Thailand, but it was 6 p.m. our time, and so we're counting that as it was the time difference.
All right.
That's Alaska time.
Yeah, we did the math on that one.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
I wish you had told us that.
Yeah.
We can still pull it out.
All right, so the next one that we're going to do is reject code W2, and that is when there is unclear postmark, but the post office has provided additional information. However, with this one, we did bring it back to the post office today to see if they could give us any information, because what you'll see on this is you'll see where the postmark is supposed to be, which is on this stamp in black. So you can see the 24. But they could not provide us any information when my staff brought this to the post office today to get it looked at. But we felt that it belonged under this code because we went that step to bring it back to the post office to have them look. And the postmark is unclear. I think we even tried to use the tape trick to get the date. So basically just putting a piece of tape over it, trying to pull up the ink, but nothing came up.
Go to the FBI and see if they can help you.
So, William, I spent time this morning looking at multispectral records of 1,000-year-old documents where the papyrus had been erased and somebody else had done it. By using a camera which can pick up several different spectra, you can usually figure out what the ink is. So there is a technological solution that may well be part of our deal later on.
Oh, we can see if it's in the budget.
Now this particular voter is very well known. has served as governor of the state. And I know that he was in China. But this is sent from the UK. Now I got a note from him in China.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Be able to see the other side, right?
Yeah.
One W2.
When I asked for it.
So I just want to make a quick announcement. I was just given this network outage sheet. We got an email, so this may impact the phones for anyone calling in. I don't know if there's anyone on the lines right now, but I also just wanted to bring this to the commission and everyone's attention.
The network is down.
All right,
So there was just one W2.
yeah, one W2.
Can you go back to W?
We're going to come back to W, but we're going to do that at the end.
Oh,
I'm getting through all the really small numbers first. So the next one we're going to do is reject code X, which is voter not registered. This code is used when it is determined that the voter is not registered to vote. There are 18 of these.
and they will be registered as soon as those go through.
That is correct.
So similar to another category covered, they probably came in and requested a ballot.
That is correct, yeah.
Okay.
And it's they were not found in the state voter database.
Yeah, really.
We have a dumb question. Sure, let's do the answer to. If your birthday was May 14th, can you come in, register, and vote at the same day if you were born in 2006?
Unfortunately, there is no same-day voter registration in the state. So had they voted or had they registered within the 30-day limit, and had they known they could vote, where if they turned 18 on May 14th to vote, they could have voted so long as they registered to vote on April 14th. but because they did it this way, those votes don't count, unfortunately.
That was a case where a woman would have got registered the year before, but still. Thank you.
And through the chair, on this one, there's 2 explanations there. Could you explain 2 explanations?
Yes, so this person just turned 18 and they registered through the PFD. And the issue with the PFD is when somebody does the PFD, it automatically registers you to vote, but it doesn't get updated in time. So that's why there's 2 explanations on this one.
Okay, thank you.
So they've registered to vote twice.
I don't remember how far in advance, but I know that a person can register to vote before the 18th birthday, but then obviously can't vote until turning 18.
Yeah. So it's 90 days for the person who's turning 18.
But you know, in this case, the person was born in 05, so the person is 20 or is 19 years old, born in March, so they have really a full year. Minus the 90 days to register. Then, when it says turned 18, registered with PFD, does that mean that the filing date for PFD was April 1st, right?
I believe.
It's March 31st, but they don't get the information for the state, and PFD don't communicate. Elections and PFD don't communicate to June.
What does the law say? Because when they created the PFD registration, did they look at that issue?
I can try to look it up.
Yeah, it might be worth knowing, just because I could, if you've determined that this person did register by March 1st, even though the state didn't do its paperwork, that person did do its paperwork, and that person maybe ought to be qualified to vote.
If I recall,
especially if nobody told them that they weren't qualified to vote.
Yeah, and if I recall from this one, the voter did indicate on that they registered to vote, registered to vote via the PFD. The issue is, again, they're not in the state voter database, and that's why we said they're not registered, because we have to go by what's in the database.
No, I get it. If they said that, they didn't say it, they might have told the clerk who said it.
No network.
Say again?
No network.
I just got done explaining to everybody there was no network. Right?
You want to use my network?
I got one thing.
Are we all set with these ones?
Yeah, that was sad though.
Yeah.
That was sad.
Say again?
It's sad.
Well, just,
That last
I'm going to make a note on that one and promise Lauren we're not going to be long tonight, but maybe in the break we can figure that out.
Okay, it's right on top.
I'm inclined to jump that.
Yeah, I'm inclined to count it too. It all depends on what the PFD says, because when you sign up for this, you know you get automatic registration. It ought to work for the next election. And I understood, having been there when we get these, I mean, the state division election gets these things from all sorts of people. You know, there's people who might be doing voter registration drives and keep a whole bunch of things in the trunk of their car and turn them in daily too. You can't help them. But on something like this, where the state bureaucracy is arbitrarily,
It's the state that's the reason for the.
right.
Yep. So, but again, they will be registered a second time. Or actually,
So what code was that?
that one is X.
Double X? No.
We're on double. Well, I'm gonna go.
That was X.
Yeah, that was X.
Okay.
So the next code on the sheet is double X, and that is voter deceased. There are 0 of those, but this code is used when it is determined that the voter is deceased. The next one is reject code C, and this is voter has failed to sign the ballot return envelope. And this code is used if it is determined that the voter did not sign the ballot return envelope or the required voter declaration. There are 49 of these. And I will give you a caveat. If, and I saw one in here, if a voter gave a phone number or an email, we contacted them. So.
And they did not.
And a cure letter within 3 days.
This is still what's left.
That is what's left.
Okay.
And that's between the cure letters, the calling, the emailing, and myself going on 3 different major networks telling people to cure. And I will also add another caveat, that for this election, we were hearing a lot from voters when we were trying to get them to cure that it didn't matter because the campaigns called it and conceded. So even with that being the case, I still went on the news and urged voters that it is important to cure. So not only does their vote count, but also that these discrepancies won't happen in the future.
Okay, William, but all of those in that category did at least get a cure letter.
Correct.
Yeah, and what's interesting is your rate is going down because we had a lot more voters in the runoff than we had in the first round. And we had 41 of these last time, 49 this time.
And you did a good job.
And I think this election, I was being more proactive about this as it, after my first election. So I hope that also helped.
So can you look at this one? This doesn't seem to belong in that stack. Or maybe it does.
Yeah, so this one does belong in it. So because there is no signature, it was the voter put this in the UAA Dropbox. We do have the barcode here, so they likely got a cure letter, but this does belong in that stack.
But it also says on there a label that you guys put on that said it was returned without the NRL. Right? Look at your sticker on it, right?
Okay, yeah. So what happened with this one, I can assume from this note, is that the voter returned this ballot that's in this envelope in the outer sleeve. On the outer sleeve, there is no area to sign. So we received, what I'm assuming happened is we took it out of that envelope, because we always check those envelopes as they come in to ensure that there's no voted ballot in them. We probably saw the voted ballot, and because we didn't know who it was other than the address that was on the outer envelope, we took it and put it in a return envelope so that we would hope that the voter would cure it.
Just a quick question going back to the one that was mailed from the UK that you couldn't read the postmark. Did you try any cure method with the voter? Like, do you have a passport that shows you left Europe?
So did we ask the voter if they had a passport?
No, any other proof that he wasn't in the UK after election, for example?
We probably sent them a cure letter, just asking for. No, actually, no. Yeah, it was the one we can't tell with the dates.
Date.
1 second. And I think the only issue with that ballot is we don't know when it was postmarked. We received it after Election Day, but we don't know when it was postmarked. And that's the only issue that we have of it. I don't know if we... Yeah, so there's no phone number or anything on the back. There, So, had there been a phone number or an email, we would have reached out.
You know who could have figured that out for you? Crime labs. I've been there. I've seen what they can do.
Yeah, I went to, in my past job, I went there for a conference, and that place is amazing. But they wouldn't help me in my line of work when I needed them, so.
They solved a murder on the basis of a fingerprint on a, what do you call it, just a hanger for clothes. Just a wire, on a wire.
A wire clothes hanger?
Yeah, a wire clothes hanger, and they were able to roll it and photograph it.
It's a very impressive location. So having a snow day, I went there for a conference.
Okay, here's where we're going to get into the numbers.
I'm skipping that one too.
Okay.
Before we move on to the next one, this is from the Division of Elections website, and it talks about the permanent fund dividend automatic voter registration. And it says that applicants who either become newly registered voters or who will have their residence address updated from their PFD application, applicants must respond within 30 days to the opt-out notice. Newly registered voters will be registered as undeclared. All voters who are updated and newly registered will receive a new voter card in the mail after registrations have been processed. So the deadline to do your PFD is March 31st. And then I don't know how long it takes them to prepare and mail the letters to applicants who would be newly registered, but then they have 30 days to opt out, and then
Opt out of what? Oh, opt out of automatic registration if there's
yeah. So that date would have been April 30th at the earliest,
Right.
And we got all of our stuff from the state on the 22nd of April. I don't know, there was still in that area where they could opt out of automatic voter registration.
So
Clearly
because
she
they
wanted
could-
to register to vote.
Because they could opt out, they weren't counted yet.
They were, yeah, it's still in process.
Well, not necessarily, because if the date was April 1st, the election was May 14th was the last day. That's 30 days. But it's 30 days from whenever you get the letter.
Right, and they have 30 days from.
It's not very clear to the voter, is it?
The voter assumes they're
I have
registered.
a lot I could say about that.
All right, so I am skipping Z1 and I'm going to Z2, which is no reference signature. And this code is used if there is no digital reference signature in the state of Alaska voter registration database. For this one, there are 7. And again, we couldn't compare their signature to anything. We didn't have it. If they gave us a phone number or an email, we contacted them. And we also, our review and resolution team, also checked these against REMS, which is the database itself, to ensure that there was, to see if there was any signatures in that database to compare them against as well.
And they also reach out to the division to see if they can find something in the back.
Yes, and they reached out to the division to make sure that they don't have anything on file that's just not updated.
Well, it says no answer. Did you leave a voicemail?
So I think we were only leaving voicemails if we knew that that voter was the voter. So if they had like a name and it didn't just go straight to voicemail.
Did you send a text?
No, because we're not using personal phones for this. We're using our Muni phones.
And your Muni phones are land.
Correct.
land-based.
Yep, land-based. So
When will technology get upgraded to deal with that?
Was anybody trying in the evening? Voting?
no, so we were calling during work hours.
But if somebody has left their phone number on the ballot and you're not going to leave a You're not, I mean, somebody might not be able to take calls during work hours. Somebody might not be able to answer, or a lot of people don't answer junk calls if they don't know who the call is from.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's something that we can talk about for next year, for sure. I will also say that even if I don't have my name on my personal phone, and even if I receive a voicemail, I'm not going to answer it if I don't want to. But yes, we can talk about leaving voicemails for everyone. So the next one is reject code is number 2. This is ballot hand delivered after election day. We have 0 of those. And this is used if a vote by mail ballot was hand delivered to us after election day. The next one is reject code 3. And this is the ballot voted by someone other than the voter. And it is used when it has been determined that a ballot has been voted by someone other than the voter. There are 8 of these.
That's more than the first. We only had 6 at the primary.
Yep.
Interestingly, I think that as they were making phone calls, the voter that we called said, "No, that's not my signature." So maybe that's why there's more.
I know there's at least one of those in there where the voter indicated it was a family member who signed it.
Did you call the cops?
No.
We saw, I forget which election cycle it was, but one family member signed for 05.
Oh.
People in the family.
Me too.
Yeah.
It was my first one.
Oh.
No, there's.
Oh, this one's mine. That was mine too.
On this one is, oh, okay. All right, this one was registered for, the new voter was registered for Fairbanks, so I wasn't going to make a case for her, but it's really hard to vote. Somebody else's ballot. Shouldn't do that.
This one looks like somebody signing for an elderly mother, and that they could have had an X or something, scratch mark, and then verified.
Exactly. There are instructions on the ballot return envelope to, if you cannot sign, to make a mark, which is typically an X, and then just have a witness. And then if we see those will be counted.
Through the chair, what are we doing with this one? Fraudulent.
Yeah, they can split it to the.
Yeah, so that's you. The commission can order us to submit these to the prosecutor's office.
All right,
if
well,
need be.
wait a second. You said there were 8, and we're now past 8. There's another stack.
Yeah.
we
sure
get the no
that-
reference
Rubber band.
signatures back?
Are we on a different category now?
Should be. Somehow miscounted these and multiple times are counted. Let's see.
Are these are different?
No, those are still part of it.
Oh, it's
There's a lot more they.
not working. Wait, this one needs to keep aside.
Yeah, that's why I'm just quickly looking through the notes just to make sure.
Should not have been there, for example.
I was pleasantly surprised with how many of the people were honest about who did sign
Right.
their ballot.
It's 18.
That makes more sense.
18, not 18.
It's 18. So it's 18.
I just missed the one.
Just couldn't read my writing.
Don't take those away
Oh,
yet.
right.
Oh. Okay, so this.
Well, if we checked on any of these, were any of these rejected for similar reasons in the last election? Have we found any kind of pattern here?
No, we have not looked, but we can look into it if that's what the commission orders us to do.
Also, through the chair, several of these say they were going to cure them. Were they?
No, which is unfortunate. So you'll see a lot of these coming up where the voter indicated to our review and resolution team that they were going to cure, but we just haven't received them. They do have until 4 today, or they can come in at person at 5. But as of right now, huh?
And you told him that on the news.
Yep.
didn't you?
I saw it.
I'm thinking these ones we ought to investigate.
Well, and I mean the ones where there's no evidence of. Oh,
Yeah, they said
right.
somebody
How
said
would somebody have
red
gotten
flag
found? Yeah.
for these. Look into.
Oh, nice.
I just say that discussions between commission members should be on the record.
I'm sorry.
My mic was on when she talked.
No, yours is always on.
These are the ones. There's some interest in follow-up.
So rubber band happens to get more inside of that stack.
we all set with these ones?
Awesome. Keep an eye on him.
Make sure I don't do anything wrong. So this was check. All right, so the next reject code is 9, and that is POA, which is power of attorney. So it's ballot voted by power of attorney. There are 2 of these. What's
So, Wayne, where do we tell people that you can't do a power of attorney? I know we do, but
right at the top? It says voter, sign below, required, power of attorney, not acceptable.
got it. Thank you.
Yes.
And actually, in both those cases, had somebody just made an X and then signed it as witness, that would have counted.
Yeah, so I think it was either yesterday or this morning, there were 3 of them in there actually, and there was an X on one that we caught, and the power of attorney not only signed next to the X, but they also signed in the witness, but we could tell that the X was from somebody who was struggling, so that one counted. All right, so the next reject code is 10, and this is previous election ballot envelopes received. Pretty self-explanatory. There are 50 of these.
Holy cow.
We do look in them when they come in to ensure that there is no ballot from the live election. So these have all been gone through by staff to ensure that they are last election.
And the runoff elections are always really bad for these because the ballots from the regular we're still receiving those.
Yeah, we only had 8 last time.
Yeah. Well, they'll receive ballots from the regular for months.
Yeah. And I will say that there is at least one in there that is from, what is it, 2021?
Oh, dear.
So.
Which
I don't know. You'll see it.
Thank you for laughing.
Ballot themselves.
They sent it back in the correct envelope, but they had a different ballot. Correct?
Oh, so that's the regular election.
Oh,
Yeah. So the regular election was April 2nd.
so they voted.
The
The regular election
That was
ballot.
the regular. Okay. Well, that is a little more understandable in this case.
Yeah. But the ones. So if we received any that were in these previous election envelopes that were for this runoff, again, like one of the other instances, we tipped that ballot, put it in a return envelope for this election, printed them off a new label, and ran it as good.
here is a family of at least 3 of them, all the same address.
But different signatures.
Right.
Pretty much, it's all the main election.
Oh, yeah. You'll see that sometimes during the election. Somebody will send their ballot in a regular envelope. I think that one might be the one from a previous election. And again, if somebody does send an active ballot in one of those envelopes, we again open them to ensure. And then if it is an active one, it will go right in a return envelope with a barcode for that voter so that their vote counts. As long as we have a signature.
Is it okay to, okay, on this one, so just a dumb question. If for some reason you have your ballot, but you didn't bring your outer jacket or your outer envelope, you don't really have a ballot. You know, this woman went to the post office with plenty of time, did a certified mail. What's wrong with this? I mean, the whole thing, all 3 things need to be there for confidentiality and so forth, but if you can fax a ballot in where you lose confidentiality,
yeah,
could you send a certified envelope?
So that's a good question with this one. So this one is a electronic ballot. So it's one of our vote by email.
So she never had a ballot.
So this, correct. So the way these work is they get sent to us in these envelopes. And if it's a valid ballot, which this one's not, this one is from the previous election. What we do is our electronic vote team deals with all those. And then after election day, after election week, we will then facsimile all of the valid vote by email, vote by fax ballots onto a real ballot and then run those like any other ballot. And that's what the issue is with this. It was a ballot from the previous election.
And she'll get a letter explaining what happened?
Yes. Those letters for the previous election already went out. Well, we received that for this. So yeah, those will go out 30 days after the election is certified. Within 30 days.
Yeah. And this woman crossed that out, so he knew what the date was supposed to be, and he still did it.
Yeah, and this voter still voted a ballot from the last election. Unfortunately, we can't count those.
No. Did you see that?
Yep. I've already found several well-educated individuals who don't follow directions. I pride myself on not following directions sometimes, but I guess
You can only put so many directions on the envelopes themselves.
there's no gain for the disobedience here.
Alright, so this one. The last of the small ones. So this is reject code 11, which is other. This means that, or this code is used when none of the other codes work for the situation. Each ballot in this category shall be explained to the commission. So the explanation for this one. So when we were taking the ballots apart for the envelope opening, it looked like there was a ballot in here. The team separated what was in the secrecy sleeve from the secrecy sleeve and discovered it was just the bottom portion of the ballot.
Oh.
So, still needed to bring this to your attention. This is the one other category. I don't know if you want to take a look at it.
I voted today.
Well, if there's no, if you want it.
Well, or does that violate some rule about desecrating?
No, I mean, most I would do with that is recycle that secrecy sleeve for another election.
Yeah, Mayoral.
Okay, I'll let you recycle it.
Will that person get a letter?
We don't know who that person is.
Oh, because they no out or out.
Correct. We did see a lot of the facsimiles that we had to do when it comes to the normal envelopes. We did see a lot of voters tearing just the top portion off or cutting all the timing edges off that we need to run through the scanner. So maybe that's what they thought they were doing here, but just return the bottom portion. I don't know.
Counts as proof of voting on time.
I sent my plastic
I like
back
it.
to the recycling.
You should email that to us, and we'll use it in our social media.
I figure that there are security cameras on the library. They're watching. We've done that before. I have no idea.
Yeah.
We got two more categories. All right, so this one is, we're going back to W for this one. So W is ballots postmarked / voted after election day. And this code is used when it has been determined that the ballot is postmarked after election day. There are 309 of these.
Leave them here and we'll just start up.
They are also put in dated order, and the numbers are on the stickies.
So the red date stamp is the name who received them.
Yeah, they received it. It was mailed.
So it needs to be.
Well, these were received 16. These were received 16.
So any difference between these two?
I think maybe just the rubber band.
Okay.
I can double check.
We need to look at all these, or are you sure that none of them were like that one in the UK where it was postmarked by the 14th?
That's where that was.
Yeah, that's where that one was, and we did look through those. Correct. Yes, and we look through them as they come in as well.
there in this category, W?
There's 309.
About half of them in the immediate 2 days after the election,
Yeah.
which means they were probably picked up. They could well have been mailed the day of the election, not picked up by the post office the next day.
Well, they weren't postmarked.
Right.
Trying to teach people to postmark.
And
Yeah.
look at this thing.
Yeah.
Legible.
That was meant.
And I will say, every time I do talk to the media throughout both elections, I do indicate if people are returning these via the post office to ensure that they walk into the post office with these, especially in the last 2 days of the election, and have the clerk behind the counter hand cancel them.
And look at it and make sure it's legible.
Yes.
Bill.
Except maybe that UK one. You all set with these?
Yeah.
So it was 269 on a total of, what, 55,000 votes last time? We're now
All right, 309.
309 out of about 75,000 votes, so our rates get a little bit better.
I would say it's decreasing. It's just because we have,
Yes.
it's just because of the amount of voters that we had this time, but the rates are definitely decreasing.
The denominator. Yeah.
All right, and then the last one is Z1, and this is no signature match on the ballot return envelope. This code is used if the voter signature on the ballot return envelope does not match what's in the state of Alaska voter registration database.
And how many?
There are 841. So again, with these ones, if the voter provided us, well actually, I'm going to back.
602 also.
So with these, our signature verification team, there's 2 people looking at signatures at every time. Jamie and I then went and audited all of the ones that were left over. We were able to cure a few out of that, what was left over after the signature verification team looked at them. And then any that have an email or a number were called. You'll see those indicated on the ballots themselves, or ballot return envelopes. And again, I spoke about all of this in the news, and a lot of the feedback when we did talk to people on the phones, a lot of the feedback that we received didn't matter because one of the candidates said they won the election, the other one conceded. So at this point, they were like, it doesn't matter. I tried to, go on the news and say it did matter. So this is what we got left. Where would you move?
Here.
Why don't we?
And so, any of these with a contact information was contacted,
Yes.
chose not to cure. Any suspicious in these?
Nope.
They were all pulled.
So the signatures just didn't match what was in the database. So people's signatures do change over time, and that's why I encourage people to still cure their ballots, because if these got cured, those signatures would be good for next election. They still have time to cure, though. They've got like 22 minutes, unless they come in person.
They have an hour and 20.
And there are various opportunities for voters to cure. They can return their cure letter to us. They can come in person and cure. They can send us their IDs via email to cure, and they can use text to cure, which all of that language has been updated and is more clearly stated. And one more point, but I forgot it.
most of these, which there's a phone number, are no answers.
Yeah, it's because we don't leave voicemails.
We don't, yeah, that's under policy change. And once, so they send. What does the caller ID say when you come out to somebody's phone?
I mean, the caller ID can probably say a bunch of different things. I didn't make these calls. It was our review and resolution team. So if they got, from my conversations with the team, if the voicemail had an indication of it was the voter.
That's what I'm asking.
What was your question then? I misunderstood.
If you call me to cure a ballot, what voter ID information is going to be on my phone?
There will be no, if we leave a message, there will be no...
Not message, just what number is going to show on the
Oh,
caller
ID. I don't know.
Can we try that and look?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're all going to be 243 numbers, but is it going to say...
No, it's our voter hotline, 243-868.
But if it doesn't say, but if that number is not in their database, it'll just look like another crank call.
So that...
No, it'll say Uni of Anchorage if it's actually, or election or something.
We could go test it and call you on that number right now.
Yeah.
I don't think it will.
That's what it should do, so that people are 10 more to pick up the phone. Because there's a lot of these who no answer.
Yeah, I was just going to have one of them call my phone. Hey, Amy, Kat, or Liz? I need one of you.
Some of us know if it's a 343 number answer.
And you?
Very few people understand that.
On those phones over there, call this number. See what it comes in.
Nasty
Thank you.
steel.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
You should have your mic on if you're talking to each other.
I'm sorry. It's not on.
It's 243 numbers. To make it legitimate, steel.
Mr. Chair, while she's looking at this, can I?
Oh, there we go. So it came in as 907-343-4310.
That could be the tax collector. I don't want to talk to him.
So I did have a conversation with the review and resolution team, and if it is something that we can change for the future, I don't know the logistics of it. It's something that I would also like to change.
I think whoever your phone provider is,
It's something that we can look into.
yeah.
There are also ways now to text from computers to a cell number. In other words, you don't have to use your personal cell phone. You might even have one dedicated to any cell phone. I know my wife is a municipal employee, has a Uni cell phone, so that would work. Mr. Chair, just in terms of, we had last time we had we urged to be voted, or we said should be counted, signatures that had no digital reference signature in the state of Alaska voter registration base. And last time there were 2. This time there were 7. And there we did try to do curing with the phone, better phone efforts this time. But the fact, and then the numbers of ballots that we're rejecting because the signature doesn't match the signature in the state database. I think we were told last time there were 1,052 in 2021, 623 in 2023, 602 in the first election, 841 in the last election. So that, you know, in each of these cases, it's possibly, you know, in a 55,000 vote return, it's over 1.5% in a 75,000 vote return. And then how many ballots did we get back this time?
So, looking at my numbers, ones that we processed through the sorter, which keep in mind, these also, what processed through that sorter also includes all of these. We had 80,602.
Right.
So that's not in the tally on the tabulation.
So 80,000, 10% is 8,000, 1% is 800. So 1% of ballots are being rejected just for this issue on signatures. There's another, we're already up to 2%. This is an election where the outcome is divided by a much larger percentage, so it's not likely to get into court this time. But I just feel it's important that we do everything we can to work that number down, especially because it's something where the voter, you know, we specifically don't tell the voter what their signature is, so they have no idea which one to copy. So we're preventing fraud, but we're disenfranchising 1% of the people who vote.
So to speak on that,
disqualifying.
Yeah, to speak on that for a second, we do tell voters which signatures are on file. I typically, when I'm on the news, I typically talk about how we have the driver's license. And I've gone as far when we do tours, I think even a couple times last election in front of the news, I've gone on with my ID and been like, look, the signature is not good. So every time I want to sign my ballot, I have to look directly at my signature. And I always try to say that on the news when I'm talking about the signature portion of this. You know, we've done a lot to ensure that voters do cure. It's unfortunate that a lot of people don't think their vote really matters at this time and don't want to cure. If you look through all of these, you will see notes that say it doesn't matter. That's why I went on the media. I did what? ADN, Channel 2, and Alaska Public Media to tell voters that even though, you know, this won't change the election, it's still important to cure their votes so that this won't continue happening.
Well, Mr. Chair, this is something that I was in a conversation with the Lieutenant Governor about, and they don't check signatures, so they don't seem to care about it as much as we do. And here we are relying on the database that the state collects, doesn't use for its own voter verification. We rely on it for our voter verification. And I'm not even sure, is it in the same database as when you get voters that come with the signature? Is it a separate database that comes out of PFD and a fishing license and all those other things? Or
so we have up to 5 signatures in the database that we receive from the state, and they come from, you know, your fishing license, they come from your DMV, they come from PFD, other ballots. Like if you look at what we have, you'll see some of our older return envelopes in there. You'll see the states, and I think the biggest difference is that this election is a vote by mail election, whereas the state is not, and that's why we do have to check the signatures.
No, I'm saying we do have to check the signatures, and you know the state on a absentee usually checks one or more identifiers, like last 4 social or birthday or something like that. But I guess what I'm wondering is, I mean, this was not a close election, so it's not likely to be litigated this time. But I think we're open to having a contested election with this process, and we got to figure out some method. And I don't know, I honestly don't know what it is. I mean, technically the bank sometimes sends me a code, and if it doesn't come to my cell phone, then it doesn't let me into the bank account. What have other jurisdictions done? I mean, the answer is, we will do what we did last time, which is reject all these ballots. And I'm fairly confident that 98% of them at least are appropriate, not fake signatures, or so maybe not 98%, but a substantial, the majority of them are legitimate voters. So how do we help these legitimate voters who have no idea what their signature is on the state file, have their signature match what's on the state file? It's catch-22.
It's my understanding that when the clerk's office investigated moving to vote by mail back in 2015 and prior, that the majority of the jurisdictions that they looked at throughout Colorado and Oregon, potentially Washington, used the signatures as the identifiers. They didn't use the birth date, social security number, and those things, and so that was what the stakeholder group recommended at the time. I think that if there was another idea, the staff would, and then the idea was adopted by the assembly, the staff would obviously run the election in the way that the code is written. So if they wanted to go back to the state's, or to the state's way of doing things, of putting identifiers on the envelope and covering them up with a strip of paper, that can certainly be done, but I think a recommendation might need to be made to the assembly so they can consider that.
Yeah, through the chair to the clerk, that's what I'm getting at. I mean, right, this is a workshop, so we're talking about ideas on what we're about to vote on. I just think we have a big problem, and I'm not a fan of all mail-in voting because, frankly, there's one thing that our election workers do, which is they look at an ID, they look at a person, they verify the person. It's not reliant on a signature matching that if the ID matches. And in this case, I literally, we're talking about throwing out 2% of the ballots cast in our vote today, and it's just very hard for me. And I've been in close elections where I guarantee you that this will invite a lawsuit by one side, by a prevailing or a losing side, or the other if it's a close election. And we just haven't had that yet with the mail-in election. And we've got to figure out some way not to disenfranchise so many voters by something which, I mean, my signature is whatever I say my signature is. If I'm on one of these dumb credit card things where I can't even write, it looks like scribble, and here you are trying to match scribble with that is something that holds you that. I'm not even sure that's a way to disqualify a voter, unfortunately, legally.
So I will say that I am welcome to any suggestions that the commission is willing to offer in ways to deal with this situation. But I will also say that we have, again, we do check every single ballot. Jamie and I did audit all of these, and we brought them down even more. And my review and resolution team did make calls and emails. And again, I went as far as...
Do you know how many were cured by the resolution team?
I don't have that number. I can go back and hopefully pull that from our spreadsheet. But I do know we have seen an uptick in people coming in and actually curing because of those phone calls and emails made. I don't know, on some of these ballots you can see where my team indicated that the voter was going to come in. I don't know what happened there.
Right.
But
yeah.
we do have all of these things that we have put in place these last two elections to ensure that we are decreasing this amount.
No, nobody is questioning what you've done. I think we're questioning whether or not, I'm questioning whether or not this is the right standard.
Okay.
Because you can't.
That's a policy decision.
I
and that's
no,
not
I
anything
totally,
we
I
can do
totally
about it.
understand, but right now, live, before we throw out 1% of the votes, I just wanted to have this policy discussion. You know,
And if it, if it makes any, well, I just want to throw a number out there for this election. According to my data, of all the ballots that had an issue, so not just these, we have cured 70% of the ballots so far.
including these.
Yes, so that's everything that's curable. We cured 70% for this election, and again, there's still time. There's still time for people to cure. And then in the last election, even though we're not on that election, I do want to let you know we cured 73% in that election. So they are within the range. I need to figure out what the past elections are. That's just numbers I ran this morning.
Okay. Through the chair, first of all, what we're comparing them with generally is going to be a state driver's license signature.
I think most often it's a driver's license number or our previous ballot.
And secondly, I did a little bit of investigating after the last meeting, and there are a couple of programs where the ballot signature verification can be done by a program, by an app.
That was something that the stakeholder group looked into when they were first moving to vote by mail, and they knew that you can set a percentage on the program to how close you want the match, and then it kicks out if it doesn't match, and then humans audit the matches, and then humans look at the no matches, and the stakeholder group at the time, which I believe was over 50 people, recommended that it be 2 humans looking at the signatures.
And the reasoning for that, do you remember?
I wasn't here.
Okay. Through the chair, I think possibly that's something we should look at further. The idea of having a neutral program, looking at them before it comes to the humans. If we could knock off some of these problems before it gets there.
Yeah, well, and we are invited to the verification training that happens before each election, and I don't think the humans are making. I think these humans are disposed to not disenfranchise voters, and they are trying very hard to make the signature match. But I can tell you, my signature has changed over time. My driver's license signature is at least 10 years old, and I'm just, it's obviously a question. Banks have figured it out with the code to your cell phone. That's probably not where we're going to go. The IRS won't let you look at your records unless you get online with a person and show them your ID and yourself. At that point, that's crazy, but it may make it easier to hold that kind of election. Teaching people to use that will be a giant challenge. It's just, I will guarantee you, because I've been on all sides of election disputes, that as soon as you have an election that is the margin that is within these 800, this is going to be thrown out. And if it's not thrown out, it's going to be litigated. And there may be members of the public who want to comment on that. I'm not sure if it's now or during the next meeting, but it's just an issue that bothers me a lot.
And again, I welcome any suggestions. You can email me if you have my email, and it's something that we can look into over the summer. I'm more than happy to look into other ways, other pro-voter initiatives to ensure that people are able to cure their ballots in a timely manner or have their signatures updated. But again, when it comes to the voter database, that's the state, not us. So, but yes, this is something that I would like to address, and I would welcome suggestions. Other suggestions that haven't been provided now.
I've been thinking about this, and if we have voter update based on the permanent fund dividend application, I would think, well, maybe use that, but then I'm thinking, I don't think I even sign my applications anymore. My application, I should say. my yearly application. That's what I meant.
Good job clarifying.
Yeah, but I think the system has my numbers in, so I input certain numbers that verify that it's me, and so they don't have the signature. That's too bad in a way, because that probably would be the best signature. The signature on paper, I think Mr. Treadwell mentioned it earlier, you know, it's probably this way with the driver's license, you know, just a little narrow or small box, and you've got a sign in there with some stylus, and it doesn't really look like your signature.
I'll actually show you all right now.
Yeah.
So this is like what I like to do in all my stuff. I cover up all my stuff and I show my signature. Like, this signature is not good.
Yeah.
So like, I have to mimic that when I do this, because I also got a cure letter before I took this job when I first moved here. Could have been because my signature didn't match, or maybe I was brand new and didn't have a signature on file. But you know, I always try to highlight that to voters.
Well,
also, they wouldn't let me get one of those, I don't know what they're called, the federal enhanced ones, even though I had all this stuff on me. So I was mad.
A real ID?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I came here from Vermont with a real ID. But
actually, mine is on my driver's license. Mine's pretty good match right here. So,
all right. Any other questions on this?
anything else? Are we
That's,
Are we through all the categories now?
Very frustrating. That's it.
that's all we got.
That's all.
Yep.
Okay. So, well, we're right at 4 o'clock.
We can, I think our meeting starts at 5, so we can adjourn the work session. We have dinner in the kitchen for the members, and we will go cure with the cures that have been coming in for this since about 10 this morning, and then we'll come back together.
Madam Chair, do we want to ask for public comment? Any comments, if anybody would like to make just a comment?
Work sessions don't usually have public comments, but the meetings do.
So wait to the meeting.
But if you guys hold the agenda, so if you want to invite public comment.
Good. If there were anybody who wanted to make a comment, signify now. I'll ask for it again. Okay, hearing none, I move adjournment.
Any objection? Without objection, we're adjourned.